It's no secret that Frank Herbert's Dune influenced Star Wars in a massive way. In fact, some have argued that George Lucas practically ripped off the fundamental premise, characters, and themes from the seminal sci-fi novel. That trend continues into the Book of Boba Fett with its second episode, which essentially puts Paul Boba Atreides among the Fremen. The tribes of Tatooine spends the bulk of the episode in the past, with Boba's back-to-tank sessions once again serving as the framing device for these flashback scenes. After rescuing a young Tusken Raider in the previous episode, the tribe has allowed Boba to live freely among them and are teaching him their warrior ways. This certainly explains why Boba was so nifty with his staff in The Mandalorian Season 2, though amusing training scenes with the bounty hunter getting knocked on his ass a few times show it took a fair bit of practice to become so proficient. When the tribe is fired upon by a freighter train navigating a Sansana spice route run by the Pike Syndicate, Boba takes it upon himself to lead the Tuskens in an assault on their attackers. But the indigenous people don't have the machines to take down a speeding train, so the bounty hunter heads to a local cantina and takes out a swoop gang to steal their rides. It's the type of violent beatdown Boba fans have been waiting for, in which Morrison oozes confidence and nonchalance.
Go. Stop.
Now, it's Boba's turn to teach the Tuskens some new tricks in a fun montage scene. This leads to a brilliantly executed attack sequence on the freighter, with Boba and the Tuskens battling their way over and inside the vehicle against heavy gunfire. It's high octane and nerve-wracking, with expert choreography allowing both the bounty hunter and the Tuskens to shine. It's a scene that brings some of the theatrical drama of the Star Wars movies to the small screen. With the train assault over, the uncomfortable saviorism correlations between Star Wars and Dune become more apparent. In Dune, protagonist Paul Atreides is also an outsider taken in by a nomadic warrior people, the Fremen, who he rallies into action against colonizing forces who have stripped their lands for spice. This is reflected as Boba sits on a crate, like his new throne in the present, flanked by a badass Tusken warrior as he interrogates the defeated Pike crime boss. Sure, Boba's defending his new mates and demanding their future security, but this arrangement removes the agency of the Tuskens. We don't even know their names. Not even the warrior who did a pretty daring jump from a speeder bike onto the moving train to save his comrades' lives gets a title. The lazy trend of showing indigenous people as in the need of the evolved, as it were, guidance from off-worlders is a little tedious. However, we can certainly celebrate the continued humanization of the Tuskens, for these people are not uncivilized barbarians. As Morrison has Maori heritage himself, it's not as jarring as it would be if it was a white saviour, and the thematic symmetry between Boba starting life above the vast oceans of Camino and the Tuskens, whose ancestors once navigated the oceans of Tatooine before they dried up, does add depth. He certainly earned the special Tusken staff and tribal uniform he was adorned with in The Mandalorian, but it seems he learned just as much about being a fair-minded leader from the Tuskens as he did their fighting style. He'll certainly need both in the present, with what looks to be the arrival of infamous bounty hunter Black Chrysanthemum into Mos Espa. The Wookiee has become a fan favourite after being introduced in the Darth Vader comics, and later joining unethical archaeologist Dr. Aphra in her various misadventures. He also has a history with Boba, so with him being the champion of Jabba the Hutt's twin cousins, who have turned up to lay claim to their dead relative's former stronghold, it will be exciting to see just how their reunion pans out. Hopefully, episode 3 will give Fennec Shand more screen time, because Ming-Na Wen is firing on all cylinders in the opening scenes. Her barbs about the Assassin Order of the Night Wind are delivered with such assured conviction, you can't help but chuckle. Her unfazed confidence is a delight, and after a short but sweet bit of ass kicking in the previous episode, it would be nice to have even more, in addition to deeper exploration of who she is and where she's been. The Tribes of Tatooine introduces some welcome antagonists in the present and amps up the action in the past with a high-octane train sequence and Morrison showing off his brutal fighting skills alongside the increasingly humanised Tusken Raiders, even if it still does borrow heavily from Dune. For more on the Book of Boba Fett, why not check out our review of episode 1 or the latest episode of Cannon Fodder.